I've talked a bit about my opinion of Quentin Tarantino in my Django Unchained review, so I'll try not to repeat what I said there. But it's worth pointing out that I think Tarantino peaked very early in his career with this film. I say this because Pulp Fiction is truly a great film. It changed filmmaking for a generation. It led to endless homages and rip-offs. It made Tarantino an overnight legend, and millions of people bought the awesome-looking poster for their bedroom wall. But even after achieving that rare, untouchable status amongst most film buffs, there's still quite a few people, including a couple of my good friends, who think the movie is grossly overrated. Personally, I think it's the best film that Tarantino's made, and probably the best that he'll ever make. The movie itself is remembered for a few key things: the acting, the writing, and the violence. Let's look at the acting first. The cast is filled with famous names, all of them playing colorful characters that make the best of whatever screen time they have. Even the lesser characters, like the ones played by Rosanna Arquette and Frank Whaley, have their moments of glory despite being so overshadowed by the main cast. Half the main actors are comprised of former A-listers fallen on hard times, especially John Travolta and Bruce Willis. Because Tarantino has always been such an actor's director, Pulp Fiction places special focus on the performances, which allows the actors their chance to take on the spotlight and show their talents. As a result, this movie either launched or relaunched the careers of pretty much almost everyone involved. I think it's also worth pointing out that this is one of the few movies that Daniel Day-Lewis actively campaigned to be in. And we're talking about a guy who was so reclusive that Martin Scorsese had to track him down to Italy to ask him to be in Gangs of New York. Certainly, this movie had a lot of appeal to actors. A lot of this appeal is thanks to the writing. Tarantino's writing allows for some of the best dialogue moments I've ever seen in a movie. It rides that knife-edge line between what people in a movie sound like and what real people would sound like. The banter between such characters as the two hitmen on the job, or the boxer talking to his girlfriend, or the young couple talking in a cafe, all of these interactions establish a lot about the characters through simple communication. Not to mention the speeches like the one Marcellus Wallace gives to Butch, or the explanation of the gold watch. Now, of course, this leads to criticism that I've heard, and criticism that I've noticed within Tarantino's writing style. It's led me to a bit of a theory. Tarantino is at his best when he's writing individual, standalone scenes, but he has some trouble trying to connect them together into a full-length film. I think this is certainly true for his last two films, and even Jackie Brown had some awkward moments despite being his last great film. Pulp Fiction represents him at his most successful, finding intricate ways to tell the story of these different characters so that they impact each other as they travel from story to story. And this leads me to that third aspect which people remember most about Pulp Fiction: the violence. And not just the physical violence, but the use of swearing and mature subject matter. At the time of its release, it was very controversial. But what made this movie unique is how it humanized the violence. The two ruthless hitmen act like ordinary people going through the motions of their jobs. They're not superhuman action stars, nor are they villainous psychopaths. They question what they're doing, they have random conversations in between work, and they make big mistakes. As a result, the violence is more personal than your average action film. Though it's worth pointing out that this movie also uses that strength to insert absurd humor into what are normally very serious moments. I won't go into specifics, but let's just say that you'll possibly find yourself feeling guilty for having laughed at some of the stuff in the film. So yes, as you can tell, Pulp Fiction is a movie that goes for the characters and outlandish situations as opposed to a linear storyline. The soundtrack is filled with classic tunes, the movie is very well shot, the characters are brilliantly written and acted. Even if you don't watch any other Tarantino film, I recommend you give this movie a chance.